We'll have another look in there later. How annoying would it be if I move you over there, puppy? Would that really annoy you? So cute. What a paw. Puppy cat, you're making lots of noise. We're rolling. So let's dive in and talk about the really exciting stuff. The superpowers, the superheroes, the high-level, high-sensory abilities that make us incredibly important in the world, and the paradox that we have to face as the neurodivergent of often repressing those abilities, not knowing what to do with them, being concerned about the truth of our identity and all of this good stuff. Let's go.
Inluminance specializes in developing sensory processing sensitivity, a natural high sensory intelligence present in 30% of the population, co-creating with the power of humanity to consciously evolve towards balance.
Recently, in the community of Inluminance, we have been having discussions about the telepathy tapes. If you haven't seen the telepathy tapes, it's one of those things that you may have heard about on the internet and thought to yourself, yeah, I've heard all that kind of stuff before. That's what I thought, and it took me a bit of time before I actually listened to it. And please, may I reassure you that it is essential watching. The telepathy tapes came about due to a series of parents of non-speaking autistic children coming forwards to a particular neuroscientist, a Harvard neuroscientist, to say that my child is reading my mind. All of those inquiries that came into this neuroscientist's inbox were not related. These parents did not know each other. Eventually, it caught the ears and eyes of a lady who makes documentaries, and she was intrigued by this information. She wanted to do something about it, and she started to create test scenarios in order to record this phenomenon happening between the non-speaking children and their mothers. When you watch this, it is that there's just no way that it can be staged, because the children are not functioning in the same way as normal children, and it's not possible to train them in terms of getting them to act or getting to put on a front or to, trying to create something that isn't real. They are quite literally reading cards that their mothers are holding. There was a bit of controversy with it because sometimes the mothers were touching their children to help balance their bodily movements, to calm their bodily movements, and that was then refuted to say that that's not a pure test. But then they came across, I think it was an Indian child and mother, where the child was sitting on the opposite side of the room, and the mother had a piece of card with a word on it, and the child was reading it from the other side of the room. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's mind-blowing, and it's really, really worth watching, especially if you are neurodivergent, if you're high sensory person, highly sensitive person, whichever term you like to use. If you identify as being autistic, whether you have ADHD, all of these things are linked. They're all on the same spectrum. And I have been convinced that, and now I am certain, having done so much research and spoken to people in their fields, that autism is just on the very, very high end scale of being an HSP. These children that are able to perform this ability, and there's so much more that they're doing in the way that they're communicating with each other, it really is worth listening. You can listen to it on the podcast, or you can listen to the documentary on YouTube. it's clear to me that these children are on the very high end of high sensory intelligence. They are utilizing an ability that is allowing them to read the energetic nature of people, the world around them, to a very high level. And that is what is allowing them to tap into this telepathic and psychic ability, which is just incredible to watch. So this is now opening up conversations in the Inluminance community, and I really want this to open up your heart and mind to invite you to recognize that you have these abilities too, right? So what's been amazing in these conversations that we've been having is we've been sharing experiences of being able to tap into these abilities, and we each have a version of these abilities to a lesser or greater degree. Some of us are really, very high level in the ability, and some of us are still receiving or communicating information outside of our five senses. And the way in which that's happening is unique to each of us, but once you get the conversation going, it's incredible just how many of us as HSPs and the neurodivergent are having these experiences. It's amazing. But unfortunately, the paradox is that we are not used to having these conversations, and that means that we're repressing these gifts and abilities, and we tend to devalue them. We're not honoring their true application. And unfortunately, what that means is it's actually repressing a key part of our identity, because our ability to be able to receive and send information in that way is a foundational part of who we are. And it's an ability that ties in with something we want to do in the world, a change that we want to make. It's aligned with our heart, it's aligned with our purpose, and yet we don't know what to do with it. And often what's happening is we're not even aware that we have these abilities, because either we assume everyone else is having a similar experience, or we're just not allowing ourselves to really embrace and experience the amazing ability that's actually happening. Because, it's not a conversation that we're used to having. So, so again, it's always my message. I mean, if you listen to the podcast and my content on YouTube, you will hear how passionate I am about supporting HSPs, the neurodivergent, autistic people to come forwards, to start to talk about their abilities and start to normalize their experience, because not only is it greatly needed in the world, but it's also greatly needed from a personal point of view. It was the same for me going through my own experience and my own training. I realized that I also have these abilities. I was in session with a client the other day where within the first 30 seconds of the session, I got a flash on the left-hand side of my visual field of a scenario that my client had been experiencing in her work week that week. We live on opposite sides of the world. I wasn't with her during her work week. I just got this flash, and I knew that I needed to pursue that piece of information, because I've been doing this for 8 years now, and I'm so used to trusting this ability and trusting these flashes of information that come. And I asked a few questions around it, and nothing was really landing. And then suddenly she started talking about a person that she had been interacting with in her work environment, and everything fired for me. And I knew that was the information that we needed. So we went into that a bit further, and a very important piece was revealed for her through that interaction that she wasn't aware of. So through me receiving this piece, this flash, I knew that it was important, and by pursuing that, I was able to facilitate a key awareness in her that was happening within that conversation, and the potential for another conversation with that person, which was key to her growth, development, purpose, and everything she's working on right now. So, this is what makes us amazing facilitators. And because I'm very, very used to being in this ability within myself, I trust that. But often what's happening is you may be getting similar experiences all the time. You may be getting intuitive flashes. You might get visual flashes in your visual field. You might get, sensations in your body. You may receive information audibly. There may be a knowing in your heart. These are all indications of you receiving information outside of your normal five senses. If you allow yourself to pursue that and you allow yourself to explore what that is, I can assure you there is a very important piece there for you and for the people that are around you, just like it was for my client during our session. So this is the paradox. Unfortunately, we are given these incredible abilities, and it makes sense if you think about it, because we're neurodivergent, because we're wired differently, we're experiencing the world more deeply at a cognitive level. It makes sense that we're picking up on a greater range of information. That data is there. It's always there in the world around us, but we're just learning about the information that's there, and we're starting to get used to trusting it more and more. And of course, we're led by science in terms of how that moves along with the experiments it's doing, the tests it's doing, and then things get confirmed. But unfortunately, we're still in a period of our development. I'm coming back to the paradox I just mentioned just there. Unfortunately, we're in a period right now where it's not easy to prove that this type of data information is in the world around us, and that some of us have the ability to read it. And just because science isn't there yet doesn't mean that it's not happening in the world around us. It's a bit like organisms that live in water, right? Microorganisms that live in water. Let's say someone came along and said, "Hey, I've got a feeling that there's lots of life living in this pond." And someone next to them might say, "What do you mean, like fish?" "No, I don't mean fish. I mean like tiny microorganisms that are actually moving around in the water." Well, the person standing next to him would say, "Well, I think you need to go and see somebody because you're clearly going mad." And it was only until the person, I've forgotten his name, who designed the microscope and then put a piece of pond water under the microscope, and it was filled with microorganisms swimming around, right? So it's all there. It's just that science hasn't it just took time for science to catch up and to prove that this is happening. And it's happening outside of the naked eye. The naked eye can't see that. So just because our five senses can only see a limited amount of information in the world around us, it doesn't mean that there isn't a greater range of information. For instance, we had no idea that infrared existed before we were able to test for that. So the paradox, unfortunately, is that because these things are not being tested right now, they can't be proven, it means that we doubt what we're seeing as neurodivergent people, and that is a great shame. So I don't doubt the ability in me because it served me so well over the period I've been working, and it's proven right for me every time I've trusted it. And I've learned now how to build a relationship with that ability. When I get these visual flashes and I get a sense and knowing that I need to do something about that, and then I pursue a line of questioning where I'm going warmer and colder. It's like, no, it's not that way. Oh, it's that way. Everything starts tingling and firing in me. Yes, it's that way. It's that way. And I know to trust that, and I keep the questions going. And that then reveals this key bit of information that's trying to come through that person in front of me. And as a facilitator, with the word to facilitate coming from the Latin facere, meaning to make things easier, I am facilitating a piece of information that needs to come through that person more easily. It's very difficult for that person to do it for themselves. I couldn't do it for myself. I needed a facilitator to help me understand my gifts and my abilities. So we have to step out of our comfort zone, with this a little bit, and we have to trust that what we're seeing is actually there, and what we're feeling and sensing is actually there, and we need to be able to practice and build relationship with these abilities, and to be able to shift into this place of self-ownership around our gifts and recognizing that it is a fundamental part of who we are. So before I owned this ability that I have to facilitate in the way that I do, I was lost in myself. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to pursue jobs and careers that I thought were the right thing to do. But it always felt out of place for me. There was this underlying part of me that was dying to try to come into my conscious awareness, but it was latent. It was just out of my conscious reach. We can bring it back into conscious reach by having conversations about it, by being asked the right questions, by feeling safe to be able to have these conversations. And that is something that I feel is going to change not only our relationship with these abilities, but it's also going to change our awareness and understanding of what neurodivergence really means and what its application means. You know, why are 30% of the population given these abilities, and nature has always had this in the genome? Well, it's not a mistake. It's because these gifts have a purpose. So let's start talking about it. Tell me your experiences. Share your experiences in the comments below. And please be very respectful of other people's vulnerability if they're talking and sharing something that's important, a gift or an ability that you have along these lines. And you're also most welcome to come into the Inluminance community and join these conversations that we're having in a very, very safe space with other people who share your gift and abilities, where you can be seen, heard, and acknowledged for these gifts that you have. And that's going to help you to reconnect with them. It's going to help you to bring them into your conscious awareness, to build a relationship with them, to understand their purpose, and to help you to become the amazing superhero that you are meant to be in your life and in the world. If I can support you further and you're excited about becoming a facilitator as an HSP, you can book a call with me. It's free. I will talk to you. I would love to talk to you, and I can help you to understand what your experience is, and I can help you to understand how you can begin to apply this in a way that truly matters to you. I've been doing it for many, many years, and I assure you I can do it for you too. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Please honor yourself. Honor your sensitivity, honor your gifts, and take that plunge and start to explore it, start to apply it. It's a life-changing journey. Thanks again. Bye for now.